Hello, and welcome to the midweek Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand in for Todd Veinotte again today. Todd continuing to enjoy some vacation time as we roll through the week. And yesterday's snow, boy, did that cause some headaches for people, did it not? But my goodness, did the trees not look nice this morning? It was lovely to look at, wasn't it? It felt like something out of a Christmas card postcard, right? It was still the thick snow on the trees, and the ground was all white. It looked very, very picturesque. But having a conversation with people around here this morning, including Vanessa Vandenez, who's on the other side of the glass, doing what she does and does a fantastic job doing it every day. Enough's enough now. Okay, we're done. Thanks for the Instagram photo today. Thanks for the lovely white snowy background that we can save for next year's Christmas card. But we're done now. Time to move on. It's spring. How about those Halifax Mooseheads, right? Wow, they pulled off the improbable last night, downing Drummondville in their barn. This is the first time in the history of the Q League that a 16 seed has won a playoff series. Now, there have been other instances, but the league changed the way it does its playoff format back when COVID was going on, and Gareth explained it all to us on Monday, but it is not been done before, at least in recent history. I listened to Gareth's call last night. I hope that many of you did too. I think he said that no one invited them to the party, but they're showing up anyway. And I don't think I could say that any better myself. That's a quote I think that we'll take away from this. The Herd now traveling to Rouyn-Noranda. I understand that they left last night from Drummondville and are on their way there. Friday night, Game 1 and Game 2 on Saturday afternoon in Rouyn-Noranda. The Friday night game goes at 8 o'clock our time, Atlantic time, and then I think the Saturday game is an afternoon game, and I think that's a 4 o'clock start, but I'll have to check on that for you. The series will then shift back here to Halifax for Games 3 next Tuesday, Game 4 next Wednesday, and if necessary, Game 5 next Friday. Kind of the same format that the first round series was following. Game 6 and 7 then will, of course, return back to Rouyn-Noranda. Tickets for those games at Scotiabank Centre go on sale at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. I suggest if you're planning to get one that you act quickly, because we saw the crowd start to build over the 3 games of the playoffs here at Scotiabank, and I would suggest that there are probably going to be even stronger crowds this time around as the buzz continues to build for the Moose. And as always, you can catch all the action live right here on 95.7 News Radio with Gareth McDonald, and we look forward to it. Did you catch the news this morning? The CBC is reporting that there is advanced talks underway to bring alcohol sales into convenience stores in Nova Scotia. The story says that we could have an announcement from the Houston government as early as the end of the month, with an implementation date set for the fall. Now, this has been debated, I think, since I came to Nova Scotia 13 or 14 years ago. It seems to gather momentum and then lose it, and gather momentum and then lose it. But after Ontario last year made the decision to sell, I think it's beer, wine, and mixed cocktails in corner stores, I think that discussion has heated up, and I know that people here are looking at it. That debate will continue today on the open hour. Don't forget, today's Wednesday, right? So Dr. John Gillis will be here in hour number 2 at after 11 o'clock. And then the open hour will take over at noon. So I'm curious to see if you support the sale of alcohol, be it beer, wine, maybe even spirits, in your local corner store. Do you think selling booze in corner stores is a good idea? I look forward to your thoughts. Council passing its budget yesterday. That means the average home will see a 4.7% increase on its tax bill this year. Now, councillors passed a 0% increase in the actual tax rate, but a jump in property assessments means that the average bill is going to go up by, I think it's $117 is the number. I don't know how they calculate an average bill. I imagine they take all of the assessments across HRM and then they figure out the average to that, and then what this 4.7% is. but $117 added to your tax bill on average this time around. And also yesterday, we touched on it during Counselors in the Hot Seat, and the debate happened yesterday, and that was the city's use of the social media platform Twitter, and council voting overwhelmingly 16-1 to dump it. The lone dissenting voice was David Hensby. The rest of council saying that it's time to get rid of the X, I guess we got to call it now, the former social media platform that was Twitter. Curious to what you think about that platform and council's decision to get off of it. Was it smart to say goodbye to X, given the ramifications of the ownership of that platform? And that was what the debate really centered on yesterday, was the fact that there's a lack of fact checking. It's owned by Elon Musk, and it didn't conform to, I think the councillors were in here on Monday, said it didn't conform to some of their values, the city's values. I'm curious if you support their decision to ditch X or ditch Twitter. Council voting 16-1 to do that yesterday. Back to the history book. Today, the anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge. April 9th of 1917. That, of course, has gone down in Canadian lore. The first time all four Canadian divisions of the Canadian Corps fought together as one. Many say it was the moment that Canada became an independent country, 108 years ago today. Lots to talk about out there today. As I mentioned, Dr. John Gillis will be here in hour number 2 to answer your medical questions. So if you have a nagging question, something that's been bothering you, something that you'd like some advice on, we know that access to physicians isn't easy these days in Nova Scotia, and this is a forum for you to do that. I encourage you to get your questions ready and to get your calls in early so you're not disappointed. Dr. John will be here after 11 o'clock to answer those questions. And, of course, as I mentioned, the midweek meltdown is going at noon today. 2 questions on the table. The CBC is reporting that we could have an announcement by the end of the month that alcohol will be sold in convenience stores in Nova Scotia. I know this has been a topic of debate. Looking forward to that. And, of course, as I just mentioned, the decision to dump Twitter. Do you support council's decision to get rid of the popular, I don't know if it's waning in popularity, but the popular social media platform that is now called X? I think, Vanessa, we're going to take a break here. We're going to stop down and grab some commercials. And on the other side of it, Premier Houston enjoying some popularity in Nova Scotia as this debate goes on over booze in corner stores and some of the other issues that came up during the sitting of the most recent legislature. We see 50% of Nova Scotians supporting the PCs or supporting Tim Houston and the job that he's doing. 56% saying that they would vote for him if there was an election today. We'll put this into perspective, and of course, we'll take a look at what's going on federally and, of course, internationally with all the tariffs when we hook up with the Dalhousie's political science professor, Dr. Laurie Turnbull will be your guest. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes.
The Todd Veinotte Show with Dan Alstrand returns in a moment on 95.7 News Radio.
All right. It's a Wednesday, that's for sure. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic day and you're beyond the cleanup. I don't know if there's a lot of people cleaning up, right? It's that snow that we got yesterday, I think, is probably going to be one of those, well, I'll just let it melt. Because we've got temperatures above zero today. I think we're going to 6 or somewhat degrees tomorrow, so I would imagine it would melt. But I know that the crews were out yesterday, and they were out this morning. I was up early and saw them out there getting the salt down and getting some of the sidewalks and the parking lots cleared. I would imagine many were probably hoping that we didn't have to do that anymore this year. But as I said in the preamble to the show, okay, we're done. That's enough. Time for the leaves to start coming out and us to get into spring. It's going to be a wild spring, right? It's going to be the ongoing stuff that's happening in the United States, for lack of a better term, with tariffs, We got in the middle of a federal election campaign. There's all kinds of things happening within the province of Nova Scotia, including some new polling data. And to put this all into perspective for us, to try and sort it out, to try and get to the nugget of what it all means, very pleased to welcome back to the program our good friend, political scientist Lori Turnbull. Lori, how are you?
Not so bad. How are you doing?
Well, I'm okay. It's with the ongoing, it certainly there's a lot to talk about, is how I'll say that.
Oh yeah, yep. No loss anywhere. Everyone seems to be lots of stories.
For sure. Let's start here in the province. Abacus data poll came out last week or early this week, saying that about 56% in Nova Scotia would support. Would vote progressive conservative if there was election held here, and 50% support what the premier's doing and how he's handling things. Is this continuing to be the honeymoon period from his election, do you think, or is this a true representation of what Nova Scotians think?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think it's probably a combination of things. I think, first of all, Houston's win in the election was so decisive that I think it has a kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but sort of like there's a calm that goes with it. It's kind of like, okay, he is the premier, like big time. This was not a close election, right? Like this was a really decisive win, even if lots of people voted for one of the other parties. There's just kind of a sense that, okay, this is it for at least 4 years. And so I think people kind of accept it. And I also think the broader picture around everything that's going on with Trump and the tariffs, and there's a sense of crisis, there's a sense of panic. Honestly, that tends to mean that people have more trust in the incumbent. Even if you look at the statistics around public trust during COVID, it was a terrible time, but incumbent governments tended to have more of a sense of confidence from the people. And that's very usual when you have a kind of crisis time.
Laurie, it was interesting to me that there was some turmoil within the government in the last session here with some legislation that the premier proposed trying to fire had the ability to fire the Auditor General without cause, and some of these interesting takes on transparency and access with the media and those kind of things. That doesn't seem to have hit him at all. In fact, if you look, I think he got 53% of the vote, and he's at 56% support now. It doesn't seem to have tarnished his image at all.
Yeah, I mean, that stresses me out a little bit, to be honest. Not because I wish for Premier Houston's polls to decline or anything, but just because it's worrying when a politician will do something like that and essentially take a risk that people are not going to care so much, and then people don't care so much, right? Like,
right.
Not that we don't care, but I think too, like there's so much going on that it's not necessarily the case that people are going to put up something like media access and the government's scrutiny. Like those sorts of things are not going to get top billing when we've got all these other things to worry about. But I think there is a concern that we really need to take seriously about this kind of backsliding, that it's not just happening in these instances with Premier Houston. There's lots of politicians right now. There are lots of instances across the country, across the world, frankly, where things that we would take for granted in a democracy as being the case, they're not necessarily the case anymore, right? Like we're not necessarily seeing respect for the media. We're not necessarily seeing that emphasis on holding the government to account. Even if you look at the Conservatives campaign right now, at the federal level, what they're doing is essentially like scripting these rallies where they're packing all these people in. And I'm not saying people aren't going willingly. People are interested in what Pierre Poilievre is doing. But there's this sort of, we're going to put as many people as we can in these rooms, and then we're going to tell the media what they're allowed to ask. And this is all going to be, for the interest of Pierre Poilievre showing like he's got a campaign going and he's not losing, right? Like, and the polls are suggesting the Carney's ahead.
That was leading me to my next question. There's been an awful lot of debate about polling numbers and about numbers of people showing up to rallies. As someone who studies this from the outside, what can we consider to be the true picture of how Canadians are leaning? Is it the poll numbers? Because we hear from people that you can manipulate a poll, but you can't manipulate a crowd size, which I'll disagree with because you can just bring people in from all over. That being said, what's the best representation of where Canadians are going in this campaign? Is it the polls or is it the number of people that are showing up to events?
Okay, so one thing I would say is there's the difference between the national and the local, and I totally take the point that, and I agree, like when people are going to these rallies, it's not just people who live in that riding, right? Like we know that. There are people coming in from different places. So it's not necessarily a representation of just how things are going in that specific locality, but it is more of a test of people on the ground in a kind of more broad local way, like what's the support level for Pierre Poilievre there. But the thing about it is, a lot of people, from what I'm hearing, are like, oh, this guy's a social media star, and I follow him on Twitter, I follow him on X, whatever. Maybe I'll meet him, maybe I'll get a picture with him. I'm not, and there's like this sense of if he talks about axing the tax and building the homes, everybody cheers. But if he tries to talk about stuff like Trump, it doesn't go over as well. And Poilievre is doing these things like speaking for 90 minutes, like, oh God, like, and it's hot as hell in there apparently. Right. Like I don't know how much fun these things are, but I shouldn't say that. But I think it's not necessarily an indication, really, of how the votes are going to stack up in any specific seat, because you don't really know who's in the room. Whereas at the level of the national polls, it's a similar kind of thing where, like, we're seeing, 42% for Carney, 38% for Poilievre, but when it comes down to it on election night, it's how the votes stack up in every riding. And this is the first election that we're having under the new electoral boundaries. Right. And so it's not crystal clear, right? Like neither of these things is a perfect reflection of how election night is going to shake down.
Is Trump still the ballot box question, Lori? The reason why I asked that is that or some suggesting that Mark Carney's campaign's losing a little bit of steam because there was no additional tariffs put on during Liberation Day. Is that your feeling?
Well, I think to some extent, yes, but I think probably always that sense of urgency and panic was not going to last the whole campaign, even if there was no Liberation Day. But I think, for me personally, I don't necessarily look at the fact that we didn't make it. We avoided being on that list on Liberation Day, thank goodness. But I don't think it's over, right? That doesn't mean that Trump won't turn around and do who knows what by tomorrow or the next day. And so I don't think there's a sense that, we're out of the woods on this. And even with even being off the list, like the global trade situation, he's decided to go at China. Yikes, right? I don't know we're not going to be immune from the effects of all of this, even though we're not on that list right now. And there's still the tariffs that we have, like the 25% on steel and aluminum. That's going to be very, that's going to be a real strain, obviously on the economy, but on national unity, because these things are going to affect different regions differently. And so all in all, I think there is a little bit more attention now maybe to issues that aren't directly Trump related, but I think these things are all related, right? Like if our economy is in trouble, how are we going to build the homes and right. Stop all, and fix the budget and all the other things that he has when we don't have the means to do it?
Saw some polling data. I think it was Angus Reid earlier this week saying that that people that were leaning liberal are starting to solidify their choice. I think it was up over 60%. And very much the same for the Conservative Party, that number higher within the base at least. We're only halfway through the campaign. Is it become more difficult as that campaign rolls along to try and increase your standing in the polls or on election day with people, kind of already made their decision?
I think to some extent, yeah, as the campaign goes on, people will decide how they're voting. And then there are fewer people who will be open to changing their mind. But at the same time, there tends to be a lot of people in Canada who actually don't switch on until the last couple of weeks of an election campaign. Right. And who can blame them? You don't want to necessarily listen to 36 days of this magic. So you wait until it's a bit closer. Like a lot of people will say, like around the debate time, for example, okay, right, like this is the moment where I'm going to tune in and have a look at the leaders if they haven't decided who they're going to vote for already. But I mean, I think to a large extent, you can see Carney trying to identify with those voters who are in the middle, like those people who may have identified even as progressive conservative at some point, centrists, people who have felt orphaned by a political system where the parties are pulling to the left or pulling to the right, and there's really nobody in that middle where a lot of Canadians identify. I think Carney is just going straight for that crowd. And so I think to a large extent, this election will turn on whether those people will go with him or whether people who were thinking about voting for Poilievre instead of Trudeau, whether they'll stay with Poilievre.
Is there enough of that undecided vote out there, Laurie, to I mean, if you believe the polls, there's 6 or 8 points, or depending on which one you look at. Is there enough? Is there enough of an undecided vote out there for the Conservatives to make enough gains to surpass the Liberals in the polls?
The problem I can see, I mean, on the plus side for the Conservatives, their base tends to be quite mobilized. So ground game, getting out the vote, the Conservatives tend to be very, even though there's some discussion right now about there being some internal panic and disagreement inside the Conservative Party. Typically, the ground game for the Conservatives, the base is very supportive. They will show up at election time. The issue is going to be the support for the NDP is collapsing. And if all those people go Liberal, or most of those people go Liberal, and they won't all, right? There are some NDP Conservative switchers. So I think it depends on how the fallout from the NDP tanking, how that splits, and then how it splits on a riding-to-riding level.
Laurie, I take calls in the open hour from NDP supporters who just can't believe that Jagmeet Singh and the NDP are in the 8 or 9% range.
Yeah.
It's quite remarkable. Is this punishment for the supply management, or is it his leadership, or is it a combination of both, or is it something else?
Oh, I think it's a combination of a few things. My own feeling about it is that this has been actually a long time in the making. I think the Trump situation puts a lot of emphasis on this election is very impactful. It's about who's going to be the prime minister. And the smaller parties aren't really in the running for that. And so already they're on an uphill battle no matter what they say. On top of that, I think Singh and the NDP, in my view, made a mistake doing this confidence and supply agreement with the Liberals. It's not a coalition, but that's the whole point, actually, right? Like the NDP were not in cabinet. The NDP were backing up the Liberals seemingly no matter what they did. And then when he decided he was going to leave and have this whole, Trudeau's too close to the corrupt billionaires, and well, then why the hell did you back them up for 2.5 years then? So it was just not persuasive. I think they lost their identity, honestly. That doesn't mean that Lisa Roberts won't be competitive in Halifax, as I think she will, but I think that's going to be her own building. It's going to be the fact that she's been building that right. Support in the riding and came very close in the last election too. And I don't know what is this going to mean for the NDP at the end. A big part of it for them too is like of the 24 seats I think they have, 13 of them are in British Columbia. So it looks like it's a pretty, straight up two-way race between the Conservatives and the Liberals there. So even that alone, right? Like even if the NDP gets thumped in British Columbia, that's a crisis for them.
Laurie, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to talk to you.
That is Laurie Turnbull, political scientist from Dalhousie University. We're almost halfway through. And that means there's still halfway to go, and campaigns do matter. Everybody will tell you that. It's certainly not a foregone conclusion, but I would imagine with the gap that's been maintained for the first half of this campaign, that it's going to continue to be an uphill battle for Mr. Poilievre to try and convince voters to pull their vote back from the Liberals and into the Conservative side of the aisle, so to speak. We're going to stop. Blake is going to update us on what's going on in the news. And on the other side of that, HRM Council voting yesterday, first of all, to pass the budget. Second of all, 16-1 to ditch X, or formerly known as Twitter. District 9 Councillor Sean Cleary will be your guest to talk a little bit about it. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We are back in minutes. All right, welcome back. Technology, a wonderful thing when it works properly. When it doesn't, it can be a more of an impediment. Anyway, Vanessa doing a fantastic job working with some equipment that's being updated and fixed as we speak. So if something sounds a little bit off on your radio this morning, that is what is going on. There's some critical work going on with our computer systems, as is the case for many businesses, I would think, as we rely more and more on technology. Technology, by the way, was this is what we call a segue in the business. Technology was part of the discussion last night at City Council, as well. The Budget Committee passing the budget for the year. Very pleased on very short notice to join us this morning is District 9 Councillor Sean Cleary. Sean, how are you?
Good, Dan. How are you?
Appreciate you picking up the phone, sir. I know that we called you last minute.
No worries. I'm just walking down to City Hall, so if you hear traffic in the background, that's what that is.
Look at that. He's out using the sidewalks. Are they clear?
Well, I'm on Quinpool Road, and things look pretty good.
Okay. I imagine that snowstorm yesterday caught a bunch of everybody off guard, right?
Well, and my heart as well. I was looking outside thinking, what the heck? It's April, man.
No doubt. All right, let's start with the budget. I know we talked about this on Monday, but for those that weren't tuned in at that point, Sean, a 0% increase in the tax rate, a 4.7% increase due to the assessment. You're happy with the budget this year moving forward?
I'm happy with parts of it. I voted against the budget because I think we did some irresponsible things in it. But, there are some good things in there. And one of the things that I know the mayor campaigned on was freezing the tax rate. So he got that. As you say, the tax bill is going up by almost 5% for the average tax bill. But, the sustainability of our city is a bit in question. And the growth and how we pay for that growth is a bit of a problem. But, I think we'll get there.
You mentioned irresponsible things. What was irresponsible in it?
Well, so one of the big ones was we took $10 million out of a reserve fund for the Central Library, and we used it for operating expenses. So that was partly to keep the tax rate flat. All that does is it means we have to find $10 million next year again. And so we're not dealing with the structural issues within the budget itself. I mean, it's kind of like saying, this year I've overspent by $10,000, so I'll just go to the bank and I'll take that out of my savings and I'll put on that. But if you don't reduce your spending, you're in the deficit by $10 million again next year.
Mayor Fillmore, when he was on with us a couple weeks ago, said that $10 million that building is the only building that has its own reserve fund. Is that true?
That is true, but we do have actually other reserve funds for all of our other buildings.
Okay.
So now, it's the only building that has its own fund. But we do have reserves for maintenance and replacement of other buildings.
We know it's a reasonably, a good shape building, but if something drastic happens this year, then you're going to have to hunt and peck to try and find money to fix it?
Well, yes, but also, I mean, it's just the concept of taking money out of your savings to pay for operating.
Right. Yeah.
You don't, for example, if someone's running their household and you make $100,000 a year, if you're spending $110,000 a year, but your income is only $100,000, that means every year you're going into debt by that extra $10,000. And so that's essentially what we've done this year by dipping into those reserves, regardless of which reserve it came from. You should never take money out of the reserve for operating expenses. Those are meant for capital expenses, replacement of buildings, building new buildings.
Sean, the mayor has said and is looking at maybe changing the way we deliberate budgets. I know you and I chatted about this on Monday. Your thoughts on speeding up the process?
Well, if you speed up the process, that just means you spend less time dealing with the details.
Right.
And so I think as councillors, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our residents. And the biggest and most important job that we do in the run of a year is our budget. And so, and actually several councillors expressed the same sentiment yesterday that we do not want to reduce the amount of time we spend on budget. Are there things that we could do that might be more efficient, better use of our staff time? Perhaps. But we definitely don't want to gloss over any details.
The other thing that came out of, lots came out of council yesterday, but the other thing that is catching attention today is that the city councillors have voted overwhelmingly, 16-1, to drop X, formerly known as Twitter. I see that David Hensby was the only one that voted against it. Why did you support the motion to drop Twitter, John?
So a number of reasons. If you just think about, obviously, the ownership of X, Musk is a bit toxic and has been for a number of years. In fact, when he announced he was buying X 2 years ago, that's when I got rid of my Twitter account. And frankly, my mental health has never been better. But also, he's part of a government in the United States that's trying to harm us economically. And Twitter, because of the changes that Musk has made to the algorithm, to the way you can access important insights and statistics from it, it's less useful now than it used to be. And so from a municipality perspective, we need to think about how can we best communicate with residents? What are the best tools that we can use for that, whether it's social media, traditional media, or whether it is communicating directly, and especially getting feedback from residents. It's not just important to communicate one-way news, but how do you get feedback from your residents? So this is where we're going right now.
Do we know if we're going to assume another platform, or are you going to do your own, or is that still too early?
So in this particular motion, staff recommended that we transition to Blue Sky, but Councillor John St. Amand has a motion as well that will be coming back to Council, looking at how we communicate more globally and if there's a better way to do it, which could incorporate our own kind of app or platform, or better use of our websites, or better use of the way we interact in person with residents.
A face-to-face conversation? Really?
Well, so here's an example. When we did the center plan, it would have been around 2017, 2018, 2019. We actually rented a space downtown and had it open for people to come in and talk to our planners face-to-face. And we did pop-ups at libraries, rec centers, and those were some of the most valuable that I heard from residents in terms of understanding the changes we were making to the regional center's land use plan.
Was this vote last night a vote against X as a platform, or was it a vote against its owner, Musk, or was it a combination of both, or was it something completely different?
You know what? To be honest, it's probably a combination of both.
Okay. I see a quote here, Sean, and I'm going to ask you if you've misquoted here, because it was kind of interesting to me. You said, the owner of X has stated that Canada isn't a real country and is working with the orange guy down south to literally destroy our economy. Why would we support that? Did you say that?
I did indeed.
Okay. Appreciate your time, sir.
And he has said that. And thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay. You have a fantastic day. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
That is District 9 Councillor Sean Clary, referring to the President of the United States in debate at Council last night as the orange guy. We're going to stop and take a break. We're going to continue the show on the other side of it. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about healing pathways and hospice care. It's a bit of a hard way to transition from what we just talked about to that, but we're going to explain what it means and have a conversation with the Executive Director of the Nova Scotia Hospice Palliative Care Association. Tim Guest will be your guest. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. Dan Alstrand along with you. Remember, coming up after the news at the top of the hour, we're going to open up our telephone lines for house calls. Dr. John Gillis will be here to answer your medical-related questions. So if you have a question you'd like some advice on, maybe a second opinion on, a quick diagnosis on, here's your opportunity. And we'll be doing that in about 15 minutes' time. So make sure that you have your questions ready to go and are in early so we don't have to disappoint anybody as we move through this Wednesday. The Nova Scotia Hospice Palliative Care Association was founded way back in 1994 to promote the philosophy and the principles of palliative care across the province. They've announced the launch of a new program. We're very pleased to welcome into the show to tell us a little bit about what it is and so on and so forth is the Executive Director of the Hospice Palliative Care Association of Nova Scotia, and that's Tim Guest. Tim, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about this new program, Healing Pathways, the Grieving Well. What exactly is it?
So it is, it's an online web-based database that contains information, supports, and it provides the public with information on community-based organizations that offer programs and supports that they can go to if they are experiencing grief. It's part of our work with the work that we're doing with Nova Scotia Health and the government of Nova Scotia in assisting with the implementation of the Nova Scotia grief, bereavement, and emotional wellness model.
It's something that I've experienced. It's something that many of our listeners would have experienced. Is that when you are in a situation where you're grieving and you've lost someone or someone, and it's difficult to sort of get your head wrapped around your loss, but find an easy place to find information to seek help should you need it.
Yeah, grief is something that we will all experience at some point in our lives, and it can impact us all across the life spectrum, and really it's part of being a human that we will experience grief, and grief can be caused by a variety of experiences. And most of the time, we deal with grief through our immediate support systems, but sometimes we do need additional supports. And the purpose behind the web online database is to help individuals be able to access that information.
I understand the first phase of this portal was focusing on Cumberland and Colchester and East Hants, but as I understand it, it's planning to move out across the whole province. Am I right?
Yeah, we released or we launched the product just a couple of weeks ago, and so as individuals from across the province go in and have a look at it, they will see that there are some resources in there that are national or provincial in nature, but the vast majority of the programs that are there are located in Colchester, Cumberland, and East Hants counties, as that was where our initial focus was to get the system operational. And as we become aware of new programs, we'll be adding them. But we're turning our focus now to the rest of the province and starting to populate the product with programs and services that are being offered to citizens in all of the other counties across the province.
How does the Nova Scotia Hospice Palliative Care Association support this? How does it funded? Is it funded through the government? Is it funded through donation? Is it a combination of both?
Yeah, this is one of the deliverables that is required of us in the contract that we have with the province of Nova Scotia, and it was initially funded through funding from the Public Health Agency of Canada as part of the Government of Canada and the Government of Nova Scotia's response to the recommendations of the Mass Casualty Commission.
Right.
And then our funding in this last year is for the year that's starting for us on April 1st was from the Government of Nova Scotia.
Has it been used? Are people using it? Do they like it?
Early to tell. It just became available, and so we're just now trying to get the public to be aware that it's there. And so, really what our hope is over these first few weeks, as people start to go in and check it out, that they will, let us know what they think. It's something that we know that it'll evolve and we will tweak it as we get more experience and get more information in it and we have the population using it. But we're really happy with it. We know that there are communities in the province that don't have the same level of access to Wi-Fi.
Right.
And to the internet. And so, we have designed it in such a way that it's it's very easy to print the materials, and it's easy to share it. And so if individuals aren't as comfortable with using web-based applications, we've designed it in such a way that their kids or their grandkids could go on and forward information and easily print it from either their phone, and it's also easy to use from a computer.
How do people access it, Tim? Where do we access it? Through your website?
Yes, you can access it through our website, and there's links on the website. It's Healing Pathways. So healing HealingPathways.NSHPCA.ca.
Tim, I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That is Tim Guest. He is the CEO or the executive director, rather, of the Nova Scotia Hospice Palliative Care Association. If you're looking for some supports, if you're in the process of grieving a loss, this is something that is or soon will be available to many of you. As I mentioned, we're going to open up the phone lines after 11 o'clock today to house calls. Dr. John Gillis will be joining us. So I hope that you join us for that. And on the other side of that, of course, at noon today is the midweek meltdown. I've got a couple of questions for you. I want you just to kind of chew on them as we move towards that open hour. The first question goes back to our conversation with Councillor Clary of about 15 minutes ago. Regional Council voting yesterday, 16-1 to dump X, or formerly known as Twitter. Do you use that social media platform? Do you support Council's decision to stop posting on it? And the second question, and I think the one that I'm more interested in your answers and your thoughts on, is the CBC is reporting this morning that we could have an announcement as soon as the end of this month that the province will permit the sale of alcohol in convenience stores in Nova Scotia. So I understand it. Nothing's been announced yet. But as I understand it, that announcement could come by the end of the month with an implementation period set for the fall. Should we be selling booze in corner stores in Nova Scotia? I know this has been talked about for a very long time, and it looks like the government's ready to make a change. Should they? Should we allow liquor sales, beer, wine, spirits, mixed cocktails, whatever else we could find at the NSLC store, at a corner store, at your convenience store on the corner, at the gas station, wherever? Should that be allowed? That and more coming up at the top of the hour. Very quickly, if you've been following the news, you know that it's tariff day again today. Canada instituting its tariffs on non-compliant vehicles, CUSMA-compliant vehicles today as part of the retaliation to the auto tariffs announced by President Trump during Liberation Day last week. That's in effect now. We know that the escalation continues between the United States and China. The United States ratcheting up the tariff on China in relation or retaliation to an increased tariff there. It's at what now, 104% on Chinese imports. China says it's going to fight to the end and announced it would be raising its retaliatory tariff on the United States to 84%, up from 34%, and that is to begin tomorrow. So the trade war continues to roll along. The president saying that he's had many people begging him last night, he said, to give them some relief from the tariffs. Might be something you want to talk about afternoon today. Stopping down, taking a break. On the other side of it, it's time for house calls. The lines are open. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Dr. John Gillis will be your guest next. You know you're tapping your toe right now, you are, right? It's just the way it is. That's just what that music does. Anyway, welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. It's after the news at 11, and that means it's now time for house calls. Vanessa's in the process of connecting up with Dr. John Gillis. He'll be here for the next 60 minutes to answer your medical-related questions. If you have a question for the good doctor, if you're looking at perhaps something that's been bothering you for a little while, or you maybe want a second opinion, or you just want to have a conversation with a doctor, and in today's world, that's not as easy to do as it has been in the past. Here is a perfect opportunity for you. The lines are open, 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. We welcome Dr. John Gillis to the program. Dr. John, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
I guess we got to start this morning with the discussion about measles. It seems that this epidemic that is happening is getting worse. I saw a travel advisory from New York State into Ontario now with the outbreak happening there. I would imagine that it's only just a matter of time before we eventually see a case here in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, I think so. And again, as we've talked about a few times, it's unfortunate, but you get what you give. It's been created by people not getting their kids vaccinated and such. And it's unfortunate. Hopefully it settles down. Hopefully people will catch up and we can contain this, but there's just no need for it. But even crazy RFK Jr. is now encouraging people to get the measles vaccine,
right,
after consulting with his Martian overlords.
Prevention, obviously simple. We talked about this last week. It's, the vaccine is the solution. But John, an email question from last week that we didn't get to. Without a doctor, is there a procedure or a way that we can go to get immunized, or do we have to go to the ER? How does that work?
We talked about this. There's, Public Health Nova Scotia do immunizations. Just Google Public Health NS or NB or PEI, or if you're listening from New Zealand, I'm sure there's something there too. It's, and there's public health offices all over the province where you can go get these things done. Pharmacies have some vaccines. You can check with your pharmacy, but definitely the go-to for everything is public health, and they're very engaged in this right now.
902-405-6000 is the number. 902-405-6000. You mentioned Robert Kennedy Jr. He's apparently going to order the CDC in the United States to stop recommending fluoridization of water in communities in the United States. I know this is probably a dental question, Dr. John, but your thoughts on taking fluoride out of the water?
Yeah, I think it's a stupid idea, but what do I know? It's become, for whatever reason, a cause celeb for certain elements in America, and I hope it doesn't happen. I don't think it's catastrophic and it's going to kill people, but it's certainly going to harm dental health. And I guess we'll see what happens.
902-405-6000 is the number, 902-405-6000. If you have a question for Dr. Gillis, here's an opportunity. Lots of open lines for you to get onto the show and get your question asked and maybe feel a little better as you head on to your Wednesday. Let's head to the phones, Dr. John, and we welcome Jenny to the program. Jenny, how are you?
I'm good. I just have a quick question.
Sure.
My question is regarding the vaccine booster that was given out 10 to 15 years ago for anybody that was born, from 78 on that may have required it. If you had that booster, should you be concerned right now? And if you never had that booster, or you may not know if you've had it, how do you find out if you don't have a family doctor?
So if you had the last one, you should be good. So that's fine. Generally speaking, if people don't know and they fit into the age cohort who needs a measles booster, there's no harm in getting it. Is the short answer. It's hard to track it down if you don't have records. Particularly childhood stuff, like the more recent stuff. A lot of people keep track of it on the Can Immunize website. But the short answer is, if you're not sure, it's good to get a booster.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenny. 902-405-6000 is the number, 902-405-6000. Dr. John, read some stuff this week about an uptick in strep infections. obviously the sort of the lesser of the evils is the strep throat, which we see a lot of. But then, strep can also lead to other things. Is there a way that we can help our kids avoid? I used to get strep throat all the time. It sucks. Is there a way that we can help our kids to avoid this? And if we do get it, is antibiotics the only treatment?
Avoid it, not really. I mean, how do you pass on strep? I mean, it's close contact with the bacteria. I mean, common sense. If you're sick, wear a mask, don't cough on people, keep your hands clean, all that sort of stuff applies. But there's nothing specific that you can do other than that. It's really, the basics. Hand sanitizer, wash your hands. If you're sick, stay home. All the stuff we talk about and that, I think people got better at for a while and are now, falling back into old habits a little bit. So hopefully it settles out.
Last time that I had it, I think it was a form of penicillin was what I had for it. Is that the prescribed solution to this is antibiotics, or is this something that science is getting better on?
Yes and no. And look, this part of this issue is we tend to treat people who have a quote lung infection or a throat infection, which may be a virus, and we just throw antibiotics at them. Uh-huh. Then there are people who actually carry strep. If you test them every day of the week, they're going to test positive. So what do you do with that person? Do you treat them every time they have a sore throat? You still have to apply the criteria, which are pus on the tonsils, absence of a cough, fever, and tender glands. Now, it is a bit of a catch-22 recently because, typically, if you have a sore throat and I don't think it's strep, and I say I think it's viral, we'll sit on it for 24 hours. You get a little bit worse, and then there's pus on your tonsils. It's no big deal. Fortunately, with the cases of the worst strep, the invasive stuff, you don't want to sit on that. Mm-hmm. So it requires a closer look is what I would say. I mean, I think we always try to be diligent, but I'm probably, if I'm looking at a throat, I'm trying to make a firm call if I think that's strep, or I'm going to swab it right away and try to get that swab back as soon as I can. Because you want to treat the person who has strep quickly, particularly with the more serious cases around. But the backside of it is everybody goes a viral sore throat. If we keep chucking everyone on penicillin or amoxicillin or azithromycin or whatever the heck gets chucked at them, that's how we end up with even more resistance. So it's, trying to be diligent and be reasonable. And it goes both ways. The physician NP community, we want to be as precise as we can. And people need to understand that, just because you have a sore throat and you had strep in the past doesn't mean that you have it now. I had a headache in the past because I got kicked in the head at rugby. The one I have now may be it's not because I got kicked in the head at rugby. A headache from a different source. So just assuming that you have strep throat because you had it before, is not where we want to be. We don't want to ignore it, but we need to understand that this time it may well be just a virus which will pass.
Is the strep that causes strep throat the same one that can be much more serious with the flesh-eating disease and that stuff?
Yeah, it's the same general family. There are different variants, but recognition and treatment is important.
902-405-6000 is the number. We're going to take our first break on House Calls. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. And welcome back. This is the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. Dr. John Gillis and House Calls here for the next 40 minutes or so. If you have a medical-related question, 902-405-6000 is the number. If you want to get in and get it done, this is a perfect opportunity, just like Jeff is going to do. Jeff, how are you?
My call.
It's on your mind. Your question for Dr. John, please.
It's a question for my mom. She's struggling walking, and her doctor said she has a pinched nerve, and there's not much you can do about it. Now, she's 77, and we just want to know if there's anything we can do, like acupuncture, massage, something to help her out.
Yeah, the term pinched nerve, generally refers to something compressing a nerve, but the question is where and how is that diagnosed? If she's having trouble walking, it's probably in the low back. I assume she's having back pain. Is that the issue?
No, it's just pain in her leg, and then she went to the doctor, and the doctor said it's just a pinched nerve. I don't know how they came up with that, but that's what they're telling my mom.
Yeah, so, a location is important. Injections can help pinch nerves, but depending on where the pinching is happening, it often happens in the back. It could happen in the thigh. You sort of need more information there. But there are also various medications that can be used to treat nerve pain, starting with simple things like the older antidepressants, amitriptyline and nortriptyline, newer drugs like gabapentin and pregabalin. So there's lots of options. And then, in some cases, surgery for, an older person. But again, information is king here. Where's the pinched nerve and what are we going to do about it? So there are options. For back, pinched nerves in the lumbar spine, I don't find physio and massage to be super helpful, although often the pain is more than just a pinched nerve. It's muscle spasm and tightness, secondary to not moving from the pinched nerve. So, those things in that case can help loosen people up, help them get a little more mobility. Chiro can sometimes help. So there are options, but it comes back to, where's the pinched nerve? What are we dealing with? And then what are we going to do about it?
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
So I can... all right. Thank you very much.
902-405-6000 is the number. 902-405-6000 is the number to get on with Dr. John Gillis for house calls. Dr. John looked a lot like winter yesterday around here, but it's spring, believe it or not. I suffer from hay fever every year. Is there a I don't want to go to the ER when I get an allergy. Is there a sort of a rule of thumb when it comes to dealing with seasonal allergies outside of medication?
Yeah, move to Arizona.
Okay, can you write a prescription for that for me, please?
Absolutely. Sun 8 months of the year.
Yeah.
Not really. People can get desensitization shots to make it, more tolerable. People take regular antihistamines like, Claritin and drugs like that. Allegra, which are, the newer antihistamines that don't make people as sedated, and avoidance. Don't go for a long walk in a pollen-filled field if you have bad hay fever. I know you like to do that, so I thought I'd mention it.
I love wildflowers, right? It's my thing. So it's, yeah. And to be quite honest, because I've had it for so long, I have my own sort of, regime of how I deal with it and move on. But I would imagine that, once we start to get the buds on the trees and such, the pollen starts to increase, that you'll be busier at the Dartmouth General ER with people suffering from this stuff.
Absolutely, and it's some of it's education, right? All I'm going to do in those cases is give someone antihistamines, and people get pissed off because they've been there for 6-8 hours to be told, go to Lawton's and grab yourself some Claritin, and but there's not much else to do. If someone's having a serious attack and it's causing their lips and tongue to swell, that's a very different animal. That's right. A serious allergic reaction, but that's not what we're talking about here.
And each year is different, right? It all depends on the loads of the pollen and all that stuff, too.
Yeah, you like to go walking in those daffodil fields, and they can be quite bad. So.
You don't knock it till you try it, Dr. John. 902-405-6000. I know the grass that you deal with is a rugby field, and there's not a lot of flowers on that. There's a lot of other stuff, but not flowers. Anyway, let's get back to... Sorry?
Sadly, there's not much grass either these days.
No doubt. Anyway, 902-405-6000 is the number. We welcome Keith to the program. Keith, your question for Dr. John, please.
Yeah, anybody 75 and over is supposed to be getting a vaccine for shingles. And I just wondered, where do you go to get that? Do you have to make an appointment at your doctor, or is it going to be vaccines like at the drugstores like they had for the Colbert and stuff like that?
Yeah, they've just recently started covering it. My understanding, and I could be wrong about this, so someone feel free to correct me. I'm wrong all the time, and people like to tell me so. I think you still need a prescription, and then you can go and the pharmacies will give it to you if you meet the age criteria. It may be that the pharmacies can just do it without the prescription. I'm not sure about that. That's an interesting question. So, what you may want to do is ask your pharmacist. If you're in there, just give a call and say, hey, can you guys just do this, or do I need to get a prescription? I'm not really sure. I should probably know that, but nobody's asked me that yet. So I'll see if I can track that down for you as well. But you may just want to give your pharmacy a call.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Keith. 902-405-6000. Let's go back to the phones. We welcome Bert to the show. Bert, how are you?
Oh, good. How are you guys?
Good. Your question for Dr. Gillis, please.
Dr. Gillis, my knee is a mess, and it's not going to get better because I'm an old guy. And I put one of those elastic braces on it, and it's very helpful. And I put that menthol anti-inflammatory roll-on over it all the time to try to keep it working. And I wear compression socks. And I was wondering, can I wear my compression socks 24/7? And can I wear that elastic support over my knee? You probably are familiar with what I'm talking about, are you?
Yeah, you can wear compression socks all the time. And sometimes it's good to take them off and just give yourself a little break. But no, you can leave them on. Look, dealing with knees, I've talked about this a few times. I mean, old and beat up is relative. I've talked a few times on the show about how I've had knee problems. My right knee was a mess, and by trying to keep the strength up, it actually helped it a lot. But it's hard to do stuff when it hurts. So I empathize with that. So do everything you can from a bracing, compression point of view. Have someone take a look at what you're wearing on your knee to see if it's the right fit for you, because it depends what the problem is. Sometimes an alignment brace is helpful. Sometimes just something to put a little bit of pressure or just support is helpful. And then you're doing the topical things, and then look at, oral things. Tylenol is the safest. A lot of people don't take enough of it. Talk to your doctor about whether, an anti-inflammatory is safe for you. Different meds.
Yeah, they told me not. Yeah, they told me not to take the, what is it called? Veinotte.
Voltaren.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You said not to take that, to take the menthol one. It was better for my system. But so the support, that tight elastic support, 24/7 is okay. It's not gonna hurt my circulation or anything. And the compression socks, are they helping me? And can they be on 24/7 as well?
Generally speaking, yes. I can't tell you if they're helping you. I mean, if you have arthritis in your knee joint, compression socks aren't doing anything about that. If some of your pain is from, fluid pooling or not returning, then they may help you. But again, it's trying to determine, what the cause is and what the best solution is.
Thanks, Bert. Good to hear from you again, and all the best with the knee. We're going to take a break for the news. On the other side of it, Dr. John will be here for the next 30 minutes to answer your medical-related questions. If you have a question for the good doctor, 902-405-6000 is the number. We're back after the break. I thought it was my headphones to begin with, but apparently that's the bumper music with the staticky thing in it. Anyway, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. It's House Calls. He's Dr. John Gillis, and he's here to answer your medical-related questions. Do you have a question for the doctor? Lines are wide open right now. 902-405-6... Yes, sir.
Something real quick. Someone messaged me about this, and I just wanted to be clear. The previous caller was asking about compression socks.
Yes.
I don't think I was clear enough. You can wear them all day, meaning you don't have to take them off during the day. You are meant to take them off at bedtime when you elevate your feet. So I think he may have been wondering if you could wear them 24 hours, and that's not what I meant. Okay. But you can wear them from the time you get up till the time you go to bed, but they are typically taken off at bedtime. So just to be clear about that.
Appreciate the clarification. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Wide open lines. If you have a question for the doctor, a good chance to get in and get it done. Dr. John got an email from a listener saying longer daylight hours out there now, School's, of course, in until the end of June. It's sometimes a struggle to get my children to go to sleep. I don't want to medicate them. Any suggestions?
Oh, God. The answer to that, you think I'd be on here with you right now? I'd be sitting on my yacht in Grand Cayman,
right,
ordering a margarita or something of the like. Now, look, it's complicated. It's with stimulation is a big part of it. If you're playing video games or watching TV too late, it's hard to get your brain to wind down. So trying to minimize screen time, take away your daughter's burner phone that she's stashed when you take away her regular phone. Been there.
Wow.
Optimizing conditions, in the room for quiet, for darkness, that sort of thing. Sometimes total quiet is good. Sometimes a bit of white noise is good. Things like that can be helpful. I don't know how old the kids are, but teenagers who crush energy drinks and other caffeinated beverages, it's hard for them to sleep. So take a look at that. And look, if that stuff isn't working, talk to your doctor about, looking at, starter point remedies like melatonin and that sort of thing to see if there's a next step. I mean, you don't want your 12-year-old hooked on sleeping pills, ideally. So, there's a sort of a balanced approach there.
You and I are in the same the same boat with sleeping, right? We work weird hours, so I sometimes struggle in the summertime trying to get to sleep early. I mean, I get up at stupid 2:00 in the morning, right? So I find routine, and routine's important, right? Just sticking to a routine and not having a cheat day here and there.
That's exactly it. But if your schedule's irregular, like ours can be, it's tough. I'm doing fewer night shifts now, and it's been better. But I used to be able to do 7 nights in a row, and then just bugger off and not worry about it. Now it kills me for a full day.
Right. Same with those things that cause headaches. I know where you were going with that. The rum doesn't help, right? 902-405-6000. We have another question on shingles. Gary's going to join us here. We lost Dr. John. I was just going to make a comment that I haven't hung up on him in the 2 weeks that I've been doing it. Gary, I'm going to stick you back on hold, but I just did it. See, we were talking about rum, and I got all just bent out. We'll get him back here in a second. And my humblest of apologies to the good doctor for hanging up on him. It happens. I was just saying on the air there, Dr. John, that I hadn't hung up on you in 2 weeks, and then I just did it. So I guess I jinxed it, right?
You're the reason the Leafs lost to the Panthers. I blame you.
Fair enough. Let's see if we can do this again. Gary, are you there?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Your question, go ahead.
I just want to find out, I want to get the shot for the shingles. Does the government pay for that, the provincial government?
Yeah, this came up earlier. I'm pretty sure that if you're over 75, it's covered. Let me just see if I can find that real quick. No, it's 65. I stand corrected. I'm glad I looked that up. If you're over 65, this is a new initiative and a good one. Let's give credit where credit is due. If you're over 65, and look, this came up earlier, and again, we're just killing it with information right now. Pharmacists can assess, prescribe, and administer the shingles vaccine. So I didn't know that earlier, and I have now looked it up, and I feel smarter than I did a minute ago.
There you go.
Because I'm 64, I like to get the shingles shot, because I heard a lot of people get it. It's painful. It's painful.
Got to wait another year, Gary.
Yeah, I know. I hope I don't get it.
Fair enough. Appreciate
Gary,
the call.
You got a fake ID? Maybe probably get yourself a fake ID and get in there and score yourself some shingles.
There you go. Anyway, it's just like when you're a kid, when you're 15, waiting for 16, right, Dr. John, to get that driver's license, or the 19 to get into the club legally. Anyway, 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. I don't know if you heard it, John, Dr. John. You're probably working, but yesterday on with Dr. Rob Thacker, we were talking about AI. And it's becoming more and more part of our lives these days. And it spawned a question on the email. This one comes from Mike. It says, can or do doctors or healthcare practitioners use AI as part of a patient diagnosis? And do you see this continuing to evolve as the tech improves?
Yeah, I think people use it to varying degrees. I find it really useful, for compiling information sometimes. It'll pull things from multiple sources. Now, you still have to look at what you're looking at, where it's pulling it from. But it is increasingly used, for compiling information. It's being used for charting, dictating notes and that sort of thing. I think it will have a role in diagnostics going forward. I mean, we've seen it for years in sci-fi, Star Trek and such. But I think it will have a role. I think there will still be a human component of judgment and looking at the patient. But, the more information and tools and such, the better, that we can use to help ourselves.
We're still a long way off from performing diagnoses or doing procedures. Like, I know we have robotics in the ERs in even here in Nova Scotia, but those are still run by humans.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, it's coming. There's more and more tech that's available to us, but there's still, for now, will be a human component to it.
902-405-6000 is the number. Let's welcome Shelley to the program. Shelley, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Your question for the doctor, please.
I do. It's kind of medical, but indirectly. I would like to know, what does the doctor know about the food? Who provides the food for the hospitals? That's my first question. Does he know that?
Oh, do you know, John?
Absolutely no idea.
Okay, well, my reason for calling, and this might put a bug in your ear, and maybe next time on the show you'll have an answer. But I was reading there are restaurants here in the city. They were given, I think Lena Dehab is on her website because it's regarding the elections coming up. I think they're called Meza Restaurant. It's Islamic Muslim dietary restaurant, and they were given.
It's a what?
Pardon me?
It's a what?
It's
a Mediterranean restaurant, not an Islamic restaurant.
Well, their dietary process is this is right on their website. It's an Islamic dietary Muslim diet. And,
all right, I'll take your word for it.
But yeah, I don't know either. That's why I'm asking. But I noticed they were given money to, they're called the food processing in the hospital food. So I'm wondering, how is this normal? Or because if you go into stores and you see all the aisles now with, I think it's called halal, and we know what that means. It's another name for their religion and how their food is processed. But if that was, say, Jehovah's Witness or Salvation Army or Anglican or anything, it would not be allowed because it's against policy to advertise public religions. So I'm wondering why this is allowed and why it's happening in our hospitals if the food is being processed that way. Are the patients being told? The other caption to this is that the school lunch programs, they're being monitored, of course, by school programs. And I'm hearing of cases where parents are preparing their lunches for their kids because they have a special diet or they're fussy or whatever. But when they go to have their lunch, some of the school monitors are taking their lunches away and giving them the lunch that they're providing.
I don't know if that's something that Dr. John can answer, but anyway, we'll ask him about the hospital. Dr. Shelley, I appreciate your call. Dr. John, you know anything about dietary stuff at the hospital and if patients are told where it's coming from?
Well, no, there's a lot of layers there. I vaguely remember this, and I just looked it up. The government offered a repayable loan. I think it was the federal government to Meza, which is not a Lebanese or Islamic organization, but is owned by it's a Lebanese based food business, owned by a Lebanese family, but to my knowledge, there's no religious component to it at all. They just make food. I eat there all the time. Okay. What they did was they built a production facility in Dartmouth, which would allow them to, serve institutions, universities, hospitals, and create jobs and do good things. But to my knowledge, it's got nothing to do with religion. I've never seen anything about that. There's nothing about that in the announcement. So I'm not sure where that's coming from, but other than that, I'm going to go get myself a shawarma bowl on the way home and support them. Now,
Dr. John Gillis will be here after the break, so if you have a medical-related question, good opportunity to get in. We're going to take a break. This is House Calls. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. We're back in minutes. All right, just a few minutes left here in this edition of House Calls. He's Dr. John Gillis. If you have a question, again, that number is 902-405-6000. Let's go to the phones. We welcome John back to the program. John, how are you?
Oh, fine, thank you. Dr. Gillis, I'm 78 years old. Should I be considering a measles shot?
What was the question? Should you get a measles shot?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm 78, and I really don't remember whether I had a measles shot.
Yeah, so if you were born before 1970, which, based on my limited math skills, I think you were, the recommendation is you should be immune, just from being exposed, being all the things over the years. So it is not recommended to get, if you're born before 1970, you should be okay. You should definitely keep up to date on other things, shingles and pneumonia vaccine, but based on the recommendations, you shouldn't need a measles shot.
Yeah, I have all those. I'm actually going for the COVID shot, spring COVID shot this afternoon. So they'll give the latest one of that as well. So, yeah.
Sounds good. Keep on top of it, my friend.
Thanks, John.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
902-405-6000. He mentioned the COVID shot, Dr. John, that I'm assuming is available for, is that still for a certain age group, or is it for everybody? Do you know?
No, I think the recommendations are still check with public health, and if you fit the cycle where you need a booster or a new one out, then keep up with it. It's the same for everybody. I'm not aware of something brand new that's out there, but people should still pay attention and keep up with recommendations, which you can get from the public health website, or the pharmacists are pretty keyed into this stuff, obviously, because they're the ones on the front line doing it. So,
are you still seeing cases in the ER?
Oh yeah, I mean we've gone from classifying stuff as COVID possible or COVID probable to viral respiratory illness, just because there's so much of everything out there. Influenza, whatever's making me sneeze, influenza, RSV, adenovirus, COVID. So, we, essentially treat it all the same, meaning, ask people to mask up and, try to screen out people who are sick. We still see, a lot of people who have minor viral illnesses who come to the ER and, spend hours and get very frustrated when we tell them that they don't need antibiotics and there's nothing we can do for them. We still see the post-COVID coughs. Folks have this lingering cough that they often need a steroid puffer for, and folks, if they don't have a family doctor or can't get into a walk-in clinic, we see those folks and, happy to help them because that can be quite annoying. But again, still a lot of viruses out there, and, sometimes it is hard to know. Yes, theoretically, every virus could be something serious. I remember I got yelled at on Twitter a couple of years ago by somebody who, said I shouldn't, tell young, healthy people to stay home if they have a cold, because theoretically, they could get very sick. I also could theoretically get hit by an asteroid in the next 10 minutes and the Leafs could win the cup. Both are highly unlikely. So
that's twice you take a shot at them. Good for you.
It's managing risk, right? It's, if generally speaking, if you've got a viral illness, whether it's COVID or any of those other things, stay home, rest, keep yourself hydrated, Tylenol or Advil for fevers, aches, and pains, sometimes both. But if you are concerned, you should always come in, just, understanding that, if I see a 25-year-old male who's healthy, who's got COVID and is coughing, but has normal oxygen, normal vital signs, there's not much I can do other than, the things I just mentioned.
902-405-6000. Dr. John, I know you've talked about sort of, how you've rehabbed your knee and got things back and taking care of yourself. But can you explain how they, and I'm going down the road with Alexander Ovechkin being 39 years old and having one of the best years in his career, breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal-scoring record this week. How does the 39, is he just a freak? Or are we getting that much advanced in sports medicine, in learning about diet and taking care of ourselves, that we're going to start to see more professional athletes get past the tender age of 40?
Yeah, look, I think it's both. I mean, I think he obviously is a freak specimen. I mean, not only does he hold the all-time goal scoring record, he has something like 4,000 body checks. He's not out there, growing daisies in the corner. He's putting in a shift. But he obviously works at it. He eats well, he works out, and that's the key to it. And as we've said a few times, no matter what age you are, you can do more to eat better and keep yourself fit and healthy and perform at whatever you're trying to perform at. It may be playing with your kids. It may be you want to play, rec hockey. Maybe you want to waddle around a rugby field. But whatever you're trying to do, eating well and a proper workout program can make you feel better. And it's amazing what we see people doing. You see it on the news. 80-year-old runs a marathon, but it's possible. It's just we've to some degree been conditioned that as I get older, I should just stop. And look, not that I'm winning any awards by a long shot, but I see a lot of my contemporaries who just they turned 30 or 35 and they just stopped. And they're some of them keep up with other things, but some of them just don't. And they gain weight or feel unhealthy, unwell, and but they haven't kept up. They haven't tried to stay fit, try to keep moving. And it doesn't have to be sport. It can be anything. I mean, whatever you can do to keep moving. Try something different. Get biking. I used to not take cycling seriously. I don't get out on the road, but that's kind of the core of my cardio these days, because it's easy to get in there, sit down, and turn off the ADD brain, but watch TSN, listen to music, and send some emails and texts, and suddenly you've knocked off 10K. Works for me, but whatever works for different people, get off the couch and keep moving.
So you're never really too old, right? You can start if you've been a couch potato your entire life. Doesn't mean that you have to spend the rest of your life doing it.
Absolutely. Drop the chalupa and get moving.
That's going to just about do it. We're out of time. I appreciate everyone who picked up the numbers and dialed, and those that are left on hold. I apologize. Dr. John, as always, a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
Talk soon. Thank you, sir.
That
Bye-bye.
is Dr. John Gillis here every Wednesday to answer your medical-related questions. All right, it's Wednesday. We're going to stop down here very shortly. Mark's going to update us on what's going on in the news. And on the other side of it, we're going to open up the telephone lines for the Midweek Meltdown Open Hour. I throw a couple of questions out there. Of course, you can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. That's the beauty of the open hour. And that's kind of the way that we run things around here. But I'm curious of a couple of things. The first you heard earlier, if you missed it, you'll be able to pick it up on the replay. We had a conversation with Councillor Sean Cleary, who was one of 16 councillors yesterday that voted to have the city dump X, or as it was formerly known as, Twitter. My question to you is, do you still use X or Twitter? And do you support council's decision to stop posting on it? It appears to me that the bulk of the debate on it yesterday wasn't based on it being a toxic arena full of garbage and vitriol. It was more along the lines of who owns X and his comments about our country, his alliance with the President of the United States, who, by the way, Sean Cleary called yesterday the orange guy, and more of a political statement than a statement saying, like, look, we can't trust anything that's on there. The fact-checking's gone. That was all part of the discussion, but it seemed that a good chunk of the debate focused on the ownership of X. Do you support council's decision to drop X? Also, the CBC reporting this morning that very shortly, maybe even by the end of the month, we could see an announcement from the provincial government changing the way that we sell alcohol in Nova Scotia and moving it in addition to NSLC outlets into corner stores. I understand, according to the story, and CBC's the one who broke this one, that the announcement is being worked on. It could happen as early as the end of the month with an implementation date set for the fall that would see alcohol sold in convenience stores in Nova Scotia. Is that a good idea? Should we be selling booze at the corner store? That and more, all coming up as part of the Midweek Meltdown Open Hour. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back after the news.
Thanks.
Welcome back and good afternoon. Be it only 5 minutes old, this is the Midweek Meltdown Open Hour, your chance to talk about whatever it is on your mind. I am curious to your thoughts on a couple of different issues that have risen to the surface over the last 24 hours or so. Council voting yesterday, 16-1 in favor of ditching X. My question to you, is it a good decision? Just feels like it was more based on ownership of X than what the platform was. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it kind of felt like to me. I'm interested in your thoughts. And the CBC reporting this morning that we could have an announcement by the end of the month that will change the way that alcohol is sold in Nova Scotia, and it will move, in addition to NSLCs, into convenience stores. My question to you is, should we be selling booze at the corner store? 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Oh, let's start with Dave this morning. Dave, how are you? It's afternoon, I guess.
Yes, very good, and good afternoon to you. What a winter wonderland out there.
It was nice, wasn't it? It was something nice to look at this morning, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and it's hanging around on the trees. It's very pretty, but it's time for it to go.
It can go,
quite frankly.
Any time.
It can go. You know, you'll be able to have your fire when you're angling, I think. Now there shouldn't be any problems with
it's pretty wet.
dry forest right now.
Got
and
it.
Those that need the water, we're getting it, I guess. But if you don't mind, I'm going to just sort of kick off with a couple sports things. And one was Alex Ovechkin. Of course, I never thought that would happen in my lifetime. But records are there to be broken, aren't they, in some ways? But Brady holds some amazing, and I know you're talking about health and men that keep themselves fit.
Right.
Brady was one of them, right? Eating,
certainly wrote a book on him.
Diet. That's correct. And, that he still looks wonderful. And having money is nice having as well. You really don't have a lot of stress or worries, I don't think, if you
and it's
manage your money.
Easy to follow those diets because I'm to be honest, I've read TB12. I read his book, and to be able to follow those diets is a lot easier when you are well off, I'll say.
I would say so, but you got to steer clear of the alcohol, when you're out with your teammates and what have you, if you want to be strict about it, if you will. And having said that, another one was Vladdy Guerrero signing for Vladdy Guerrero Jr.
Yep.
For $500 million over 14 years.
He's going to be playing or he'll be a J until he's 40.
And money must be flowing quite handsomely around out there because you hear times are tough. And don't forget, he's going to get endorsements, I would imagine, on top of that.
Lots of endorsements.
If you behave yourself, you're going to probably pull in at least that, I would say, and then some. Now that's Rogers, right?
It is. We do own the Blue Jays. You are correct.
Yes, so it's too bad they couldn't spread some of that money around to you, Vanessa, and Todd, and the gang that's doing a fantastic job.
I think that Vanessa should get that $500 million a year. I really do.
Well, that might be a little steep, but and here's a little trivia. I was looking at how much it cost to build the Sky Dome back in '89.
Right.
$570 million,
right, no doubt. Yeah.
Which is, I think the renovations that Rogers did to the dome was 400 and some odd for the seats and whatever. They just upgraded it, right?
They did last year, the year before. Yep.
So if you see where the money goes now, I mean, I don't know, to build a stadium today, it's got to be well over $1 billion, I would think.
I don't think you can even break ground without $1 billion, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, a big screen is going to cost you plenty up there because you want all the bells and whistles, I suppose. So, and congratulations to the Mooseheads. My goodness, I don't think I would have seen. I would never have called that. Never in my life.
I don't think anybody did, and I think what Gareth said at the end of the game last night that nobody invited to the party, but they're showing up anyway. That's a perfect.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Isn't it though? And I hope fans come out and who knows? They got some momentum. Although they did go to Game 7, so it probably took a lot out. They got a very good goalie.
Yep.
And this bodes well for the future, I would think, because they probably traded away a lot of their stock.
Youngest team in the Q League.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yep. I didn't know that, Dan. So that really bodes well for the future. Just the experience here, playing on the road and winning on the road of the like. So now, when it comes to with the corner stores, just quickly with the alcohol, I don't think it really bothers me too much, to be honest with you. Okay. We've loosened up so much with marijuana, which I think I hear now some of the First Nations properties are going to be able to sell marijuana. We've broadened that perspective. It's in the liquor stores. I'm not big on drugs as far as that go, or even alcohol for that matter. But I think, I think we're at the point where, we can probably sell some stuff in corner stores. In my opinion, as long as you have identification and people abide by the rules and laws. I mean, you got liquor stores by gas stations now, right? Pretty well. They're right. Some of them are tucked in. I think that's one of the reasons they're doing that, is to avoid corner stores and competing, because that's a very powerful union, strong union with the provincial liquor stores, right? There's a lot at stake there. So I think we'll see what they have to say about it, to be honest.
Dave, I hope I didn't lose you, but I appreciate the call, and we got lots of others, so I want to get to it. Have a great day. Good call. 902-405-6000 is the number, 902-405-6000. Let's welcome to Jordan. Jordan, how are you?
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Oh, no, I just wanted to touch on that decision the councilors made there.
On
for one,
X?
On the X, yeah.
Okay, yep.
So, for one, what is a blue sky?
Well, I don't know. I'm not on it, so I have no idea what it is.
No, it's a platform or something? That's what I mean. I don't know what it is either. There's probably plenty more people that don't know what that is compared to X.
I get it.
Regardless if they like the owner or the orange man, they should put that aside and do what's best for everybody so they can get the most word out, because everybody knows what X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter. It's the same platform.
Mm-hmm. So you don't agree with the council decision to ditch it?
No, I don't think they should be wasting their time in the media. Like I said, I don't follow them on X, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Right.
But I don't think it's something that they should be wasting their time voting on what platform they're going to use to put out whatever they put out on them. I don't know. They don't follow through on anything anyway, so.
Fair enough, Jordan. Appreciate it, sir.
Awesome. Thank you.
902-405-6000. Let's welcome Mike to the show. Mike, how are you?
Dan, how are you, sir?
I'm good. What's on your mind today?
What are the Sand Parks, sir? I don't remember. They used to have, was the military barracks here, residential houses?
Yeah.
Now, too bad they tore that down, and, they didn't tear it down. These people were homeless. They could have used it.
I thought, as I understand it, that those buildings were in such disrepair that it would have been way, way cost prohibitive to reopen them.
Okay, I listen to your show quite regularly, and I'm calling from Manitoba.
Okay.
I know Veinotte, and Veinotte does a very good job. Veinotte does a good job.
She does.
And we still got snow here, but it's too bad. Seriously, I hope that they're going to do something with this housing, these people being homeless, sir.
For sure.
I seriously hope they will.
Yeah, I think there was an announcement this week that they're going to build 600 units of affordable housing on that site, so at least it's going to get used for something.
Okay, Dan. Thanks very much, sir.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. This is the Midweek Meltdown, your chance to talk about whatever it is on your mind. Couple of questions I'm curious to your thoughts on. Corner stores. Should we be selling booze in the corner store in Nova Scotia? And council voting yesterday, 16-1, to eliminate the city use of the platform X. Do you agree with that decision? Again, 902-405-6000 is the telephone number. We're going to take a break. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back. This is the Midweek Meltdown, your chance to talk about whatever it is on your mind. There's a couple of lines open if you want to get in. 902-405-6000 is the number. Let's begin with Michael. Michael, how are you today, sir?
How you doing today, Dan, in this crazy world we live in?
It's a crazy, crazy world, and I guess we're stuck living in it.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of quick points, Dan.
Sure.
On the liquor stores going to the little side stores, no, you don't need it. It's only going to push up crime. We got a liquor commission in place right now, and they're paying good paying jobs, and the spin-off, and it's well controlled. Leave it at that. It's bad enough that after every election, whether it be Tory was elected, they open an agency store and give it to a Tory supporter. If it was the Liberals that were elected, they gave the agency store to the Liberals. That's been going on now for the last 20 years. So just leave it under the Liquor Commission, where the revenue and everything eventually goes back to the government, and the structure's there to handle and deal with it. Then one more point. I watched a press conference this morning, Paulie F.
Right.
And he started yelling at this one, and it was a reporter trying to get a question in. He wouldn't allow them on their planes or nothing. And he said, that's just a protester. It was a reporter. You know, for that alone, the people should throw up a red caution flag. If he's denying the reporters to ask questions on our behalf, and they're watching the polls in this country where the NDP's down to 8% after getting Canada pension, dental care, the door open to pharmacare, meals in school, and Poilievre voted against every one of those things in the House of Commons. He voted against every one of those social programs, and he wouldn't allow one of the non-selected reporters to ask a question and then call her a protester. I find that disgraceful, but until the stupid people wake up then and stop bending over for this society, nothing's going to change. I'm glad I won't be around for the spoils that are coming. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Thanks, Michael. 902-405-6000. It's 9024. To be fair, I haven't seen it. I heard it in Cormac's story in the news. I heard sort of a description of what happened. I haven't seen it, so I don't want to prejudge anything before I take a look at it. I have heard stories from the campaign trail that it's very difficult for reporters that aren't part of what the party to have their questions fully answered. I understand that everybody or the selected pool is getting a single question and no follow-up. It's, it is interesting that because Poilievre's news conferences are going on for a very long time, and it seems that reporter questions are being sort of limited. That being said, I know that Mark Carney is guilty of not answering questions as well. You can ask the question 5 times, and you get a sort of a political sideways response. I think that's just standard fare now. But again, I don't want to prejudge it. I haven't seen it for myself, so I'll take a look at that when we get off the air today. And if I find it to be as egregious as Michael did, then maybe we'll discuss that on the program here tomorrow. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. We welcome John to the program. John, how are you?
Wonderful, Dan. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind today?
I more or less agree with a gentleman in the last call in regards to the liquor store, especially the state that everything is in today, the amount it would cost for the paperwork, which will end up being paid by the taxpayers. Liquor stores are open 7 days a week.
Right.
And they're all within easy reach. And I agree with the gentleman that if you go to the corner store, if that goes to the corner stores, yes, crime is going to increase. And it is already increasing as time goes on. And the other thing, which hopefully you'll have some patience and listen to this.
Shoot, go ahead.
Just recently, our government announced that on reserves, the marijuana was going to be allowed to be sold as long as it went through the Nova Scotia Liquor Commission.
Okay.
Correct?
As I understand it, yes.
Yes. So here's my opinion on that. And I'm definitely not against marijuana. As a lifelong taxpayer and Canadian citizen, I am regulated up to yin-yang what I can and cannot do, whether it's by the province or the municipality which I live in. I have to pay taxes and whatnot. Marijuana is a controlled substance, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
As same as liquor.
Yep.
Liquor cannot be sold on reserves. Outside of a liquor store, that is, as far as I know.
Well, I don't think you can sell liquor anywhere outside of a liquor store in Nova Scotia, unless it's an agency store, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So I think they just made a huge mistake and opened up a door, which down the road, you're going to see stores open up on reserves selling liquor.
Very well could happen, John. I
don't think it very well could happen. It will happen.
Well, John, I absolutely agree with you that we're opening up a door that we may not be able to close. But as I've said here in the last 8 days that I've been sitting here, is that we always go down a difficult road when we start crystal balling stuff, right? So I think I don't think it's fair to everybody involved, be it the government, be it the indigenous communities, be it the community in general, that say, well, this is what's going to happen. We don't really know what's going to happen, right?
No, but I think history is a wonderful thing.
It is.
And if you pay attention to history, a lot of the decisions that are made today probably would not be made if they paid attention to history and didn't have this attitude, well, let's give it a try. Because depending, Dan, on which, I'm trying to word this so good, which group you're trying to please or help out, that once you do that, it's like, for some reason, it's written in stone. Where, as we know, our elected officials, with a sweep of a pen, can change a policy.
Yep.
They can have laws changed. No problem. But when it comes to certain groups of people, can't touch that. Nope, not going there. I just, anyway, that's it for me.
All right, John. No, I appreciate it, and have a fantastic day. I do think that we're opening up a door we might not be able to close, and I'm my point of view is not coming from specific groups, but if we start to open up the door that we're going to allow cannabis sales at one place and then another place, and then maybe, as some and many have suggested on this program, that we should move cannabis out of the NSLC realm and into the private sector. I don't know if any of you have been to Ontario and into Toronto, but there is a pot shop on just about every street corner down there. Just about every street corner. And I don't know if that's the look or that's what we want to happen in Nova Scotia. That's my perspective on loosening the restrictions on marijuana sales in Nova Scotia. Going to try and squeeze one more caller in here real quick. We'll welcome Greg to the program. Greg, how are you?
How you doing, Dan?
Good. What's on your mind?
You're doing a good job, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to comment on the Mooseheads last night. I mean, come on.
Right?
I mean, the first team, the 16th plate to knock off the first, that hasn't happened in years.
It's never happened. Not in the Q
League.
I mean,
not in the Q League. And I'm telling you, and I know friends of mine in Drummondville, they're going to be going after the coach because they're not very happy over there.
Yeah, well, they 38 points they finished in front of the Mooseheads, I think, in the regular season.
Yeah, and we just snuck in the back door.
Right? Just the last week. Yeah, absolutely.
I think brings us back to when Nathan McKinnon and Jonathan Drouin were here. And,
right.
Hey, you never know. It would be nice.
You never know. Am I going to see you at Scotiabank Centre when the series shifts back here next week?
Will depend on my wife. So,
Fair enough. I get it.
She controls the purse strings, not me.
All right, Greg. I appreciate it, Sarah. Go Moose, go.
Thank you, Dad. Have a good day, buddy.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. We're going to stop and take a break. There's a couple of lines open. The Midweek Meltdown will continue after the news. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Holstrand. We are back in minutes. Welcome back. Midweek Meltdown open hour here on the Todd Veinotte Show. Hope you're having a fantastic afternoon. Although I'm looking out the window, and I'm not sure if that's snow or if that's fog. If it's snow, that's almost insulting, isn't it? Aren't we done with this now? Anyway, this is the Midweek Meltdown open hour, your chance to talk about whatever it is on your mind. A couple of questions that I have for you. We're hearing from the CBC that we could have an announcement as early as the end of this month with an implementation date for as early as the fall to see liquor sold in corner stores in Nova Scotia. Is that a good decision? Also, HRM Council yesterday voting 16-1. The lone dissenting voice, David Hensby, by the way, who we're going to, I think, try and get onto the program this week. I think Vanessa's working on it. I know David's listening. So we'll try to get Mr. Hensby on to explain his rationale for being the lone dissenting voice on the Twitter, or the X. I'm old. The X. decision to have the city stop posting on it? Is that a smart decision to get rid of that platform, or whatever it is on your mind? 902-405-6000. We'll start with Mike. Mike, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Dan. How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
Couple things actually.
Sure.
I think the liquor or the liquor store is now going to be in corner stores. I mean, I've been hearing my whole life how people say we wish we could buy beer at the corner store and how far behind we are from Quebec and Newfoundland and Alberta. And I don't think it's a bad idea, but that's my opinion.
Cool. And you're entitled to that.
But the biggest reason I was calling is I understand that everything that happens in the U.S. affects us tremendously. I'm not arguing that at all. But a lot of people lose sight to what's going on here. Like, for instance, I was talking to people the other day, and you brought it up to Dr. John about RFK and the fluoride coming out of the wants to take it out of the water.
Yep.
But when you say to people, well, do you realize Halifax hasn't put fluoride in their water for 5 years now? They have no clue. And they're like, well, that's not the case. Like, yes, Major went down in 2020.
The machine broke, right?
Was that 2023?
That was the excuse, right. Was that the machine broke, right?
That was the excuse, but they didn't tell anyone for the first 3 years.
Totally.
And then all of a sudden, it's temporary.
Yep.
I mean, how temporary is it? It's been 5 years.
Yep.
So it's just people got to just get into what's going on around them as well, and open your eyes. And
I get it, Mike.
They thought I was ridiculous. They're like, no, Halifax.
No, that's
right. I'm like, no, they don't.
You're absolutely correct, and you know what? And I agree with you, but it's so difficult to try. There's so much noise now, right? There's just so much noise everywhere, and that American story. And I get it. I understand where you're coming from, and I hear people talking about it all the time. That you guys are talking about Trump too much. All you talk about is Trump, but. I mean, the guy has threatened to annex our country, so it really has become a Canadian story.
I don't think you're talking about him too much or anything. I just think people still got to be awake to what's going on around them, because
I agree.
Some local politicians might use that as a distraction. Who knows, right? You don't know what someone's agenda is.
Look at the budget process. It got completely lost in all of the tariffs and that and so on and so forth. And, it turned out that we didn't see a tax rate increase, but it didn't get talked about a lot during the process.
No, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, no.
Appreciate it, sir.
Anyway, man, have a great day.
902-405-6000. Almost gave out my telephone number. What? 902-405. It's been a long day. 902-405-6000 is the telephone number. Let's go back to the phones. We welcome William to the program. William, how are you?
Oh, great, Dan. I just thought I'd chime in on the liquor in the corner stores.
Sure.
So I think it comes down to convenience, like how far you are from a liquor store compared to a gas bar or a convenience store. So in the rural areas, you might be using the corner store more often, but the price is going to be higher. So it's not an affordable way to purchase your liquor. But a lot of people in Ontario, I was just up there. You see people buying a couple of cans of beer from the corner store, but, if you want to buy a 2-4, you're going to get the better deal at the liquor store.
Right.
And we already pay some of the highest prices in the country for liquor, so it's not going to be any cheaper. It'll be more money.
Right, so it's more about convenience than being,
so I support it from the standpoint that in rural areas and depending where you live, it might be easier for people to, buy their beer or wine. But for me, it's 10 kilometers to the liquor store and the convenience stores next door. So, I'm not going to change my own practices of going to the liquor store, right?
Yeah, fair enough. William, great call. Appreciate it, sir.
Okay, have a good day.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. I think that is sort of where I weigh in on all this. It's not going to having a 6-pack, if they even sell 6-packs anymore, of beer at the corner store is not going to change my routine. I think that Nova Scotians are pretty set in their routines. We've been doing it the same way for a very long time. You plan your Fridays and however it is you go about gathering your supplies for the weekend, be it groceries, be it the liquor store, be it whatever. But I think there's a couple of things that I think need to be fleshed out on the whole thing, and I got an email on this, and I just wanted to recognize Tom so he doesn't think I'm stealing his idea. But is it going to be more expensive for particularly the craft brewers who would want to have access to this? To their supply chain would suddenly become very large, right? If it's all stores, then like is NSLC going to supply the stores? Is it still going to be warehoused at NSLC and then they distribute it? If that's the case, then maybe it's a good idea for the small craft brewers and distillers in our province to be able to access that. But if they're responsible for delivering it to each corner store and just in HRM, my goodness, right? That certainly would be a big problem moving forward. And also, we know that we've heard the stories about the theft that's going on at NSLC. Are we just going to transfer that theft into the corner store? I mean, corner stores have always been targets of theft, but if we're going to put booze or beer or wine or whatever we're going to put in there, is that going to move that shoplifting problem? I hate to call it shoplifting because it sounds like there's no victim there, but I mean there's theft going on at the NSLCs, brazen theft, and are we going to shift that down to the corner store where maybe the employees not as trained as an NSLC employee at dealing with a conflict like that? I don't know. There's still a lot of questions I think need to be answered. 902-405-6000. Let's welcome Christopher to the program. Christopher, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing today?
Good. What's on your mind?
Oh, I got lots on my mind, but we'll talk about the liquor in the corner stores.
Sure.
I don't see a problem with it at all. I'm a bar owner, and I actually welcome it. It's like I just did a recent vacation, went across to Ontario here last week, and it's everywhere. The hot stores are everywhere. You can buy alcohol almost 24 hours a day in a corner store if you really wanted to. Like, this province has been so backwater, behind the times for a very long time now. Like, a lot of people forget, like, we didn't even have grocery shopping on Sundays up until, 10, 12 years ago or something like that? Like, you had to go to Pete's Boutiques or you had to use your corner store. So why don't we let the small business make some money instead of the actual government off taxes?
Fair point.
It's I'm all about supporting small business, and I keep seeing all the signs of it and everything else, but I'm sorry, but the NSLC is not a small business, no matter how you look at it.
No.
And when it comes to you guys were just mentioning about shoplifting in the NSLC, like every once in a while I have to go pick up liquor when we sell too much at our bar. And I've seen people walk out with carts full of liquor at the NSLC and not pay for it.
And
like, there's no training. Yeah, there's no training to it at all. You know what I mean? Like, it's just they have to do it because otherwise you don't know who you're running into or what kind of day they're having or knife or whatever it is.
Further to my point with that, and I mean, theft is theft and it impacts everybody, but I think the NSLC might be a little more able to sustain a loss like that than a corner store, right? If somebody goes in and robs a corner store, what does that do to the store owner, right? So I think there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered.
I think if somebody was going in and robbing a corner store, the alcohol is not going to be the one thing they're going to be, that's the least little thing. Like when you go into the corner stores that I've seen in Ontario, and even last year when we went up to Newfoundland, like everything's singles. So like, you really going to go in and run off with 24 cans in your arms? It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like if the argument was over, whether they're going to get robbed or not, they're going to get robbed for their cash or they're going to get robbed for their cigarettes. You know what I mean? Like cigarettes are $20 some odd a pack, and I'm sure a can of beer in this province.
Are they really?
Put in a corner store.
I haven't bought a pack of cigarettes in well over 25 years. So they're $20 a pack now. Really?
Oh yeah, like I've been a solid smoker. Like I moved here in Nova Scotia in '98, and I think they were $4 a pack when I first moved here, and now they're like $21. It's crazy, but we each have our own vices.
I get it.
I work around the clock, and it's what it is. What it is.
It is.
But like if it was for the argument that worrying about the store owners getting robbed, they're going to get robbed for the cigarettes versus the alcohol. They might grab one beer when they're running out with the 30 packs of cigarettes, but it's not going to be the other way around for the beer. So,
Christopher, appreciate it, sir.
Say.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
902-405-6000. 902-405-6000 is the number. We're going to stop and take another break. The open hour continues on the other side. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, the open hour continues. 902-405-6000 is the number. We've got a couple people on the line. We'll try to get to as many as we can before we run out of time here at the top of the clock. Let's welcome Steve to the program. Steve, how are you?
Oh, not bad. Yourself?
Good. What's on your mind?
Just calling in about the government thinking about having the liquor in the convenience stores.
Yep.
There's pros and cons to everything, but you look at like Newfoundland, Quebec, Ontario now. Like, I'm from Newfoundland, and as long as I could possibly remember, you could go to a store and buy a 6-pack or a 12-pack of beer. I don't see theft being the big issue in that, because it's going to happen whether or not they sell liquor.
Yep.
And again, just another thing, like talking about having NSLC being able to sell the marijuana on the reserves. Yourself, probably from just driving by the highway, you see all these signs, weed or edibles or et cetera at these reserves for sale. And I've heard on the news, it's been, they keep getting busted, and then they resell again, and they busted, and they keep doing the same thing. So I honestly, personally think it's a great thing that, they're going to be able to do like the NSLT at the reserves, and the reserves have corner stores as well. So why not, be able to sell beer or wine or spirits or whatnot at the reserves. I honestly think it's a great thing. I don't think it's going to, make more crime or cut down on crime. Crime is everywhere, sad to say.
Right.
Just the world we live in now. But, that's all I wanted to speak about, just to give my opinion on that.
Appreciate it, Steve. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. And again, I don't suggest that it's going to increase crime, but I just, until we get this issue, and I don't know if we ever will, to be honest, but until we get this issue of this brazen, as one of our callers, I don't remember which one it was, said, I've seen people go, and I think it was Christopher, said that he's been at the NSLC and people are loading carts full of bottles and just walking out the door and not paying for them and carrying on their days. I understand it. They take them away from the store, and then they go and they sell them for $10 or $15 a bottle, and then the person that buys them brings the bottles back and gets their money back. So it's a no lose for the criminal element, right? The person that's actually ripping off the store, or the people that are perpetuating the crime by buying it and giving that person money. So it's like a ring, it's a circle, and to be quite honest, it's shocking to me that we just the powers that be just let that happen. And I'm not blaming NSLC employees. Please don't say that I am, because I'm not. I know that they are working under instructions from their bosses. I know that it's not even the NSLC's fault. I think that this enforcement piece is something that we hear continually here on this program, and not necessarily just at the NSLC. We hear it from store owners on Spring Garden Road and so on and so forth. It is absolutely rampant. Now, is there a solution? Enforcement, I think, is the solution, but it's a big piece. That's many, many man hours. And I hear from store owners, I think we had it when the mayor was on last Monday, a store owner called up and said, I've got video, I've filed complaints with the police, and they don't show up. And the police tell them that they don't show up because they're not being prosecuted. So if we're gonna expand liquor's a high theft item, right? Now it is, for sure. If we're going to expand that footprint, then should we not expand the enforcement of it, of this theft? That's all I'm getting at. Stephen, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Dan, and happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. What's on your mind?
Well, I said to Vanessa a plethora of things, but the use of X, get rid of it. Don't support that guy down south.
Okay.
No problem with that. Corner store sales, I agree. It's about time we got into the 21st century. Go Mooseheads go.
Right.
Thank goodness for that.
Absolutely.
Two other things. Bernie and Mike with Jagmeet Singh, ordinary people supporting them. 8% of the people agree. 92% of the people don't disagree. I'm an ordinary person. I am not an NDP supporter. I'm, so, you kind of got to get over it. And if you want to have socialism, move to France or Greece, not Canada, because you're never going to have that type of thing.
Well, I don't know if the NDP is socialist anymore. I think they've moved everything so close to the center. But that being said, how many? No, I get it. How many times does Jagmeet Singh get a kick at the can? Right. This is he's not going to win. He's obvious. It has to be because it's obvious that this dip in the polls, and it's a significant dip, is purely based on the leadership of the party and that supply and confidence motion he had with the Liberals, right? That's what I think it is.
Jack Layton was the best hope they ever had, I think.
Absolutely.
The guy, that's the only person I would have ever voted NDP for was Jack. The guy was good.
Mm-hmm.
And my final note, because
Sure.
I know you've got other callers to go to, but you've got a guy named Mike who calls in, and he's called into the Rob Snow Show as well, about Darren Fisher's office.
Yes.
Darren Fisher is the nicest guy on the face of the planet. I grew up with him and his family in Dartmouth.
Right.
For them to have the police visit him or to have them blacklist him, there's something else going on. You're only hearing one side of the story, and you're probably never going to get Darren Fisher's office ever on to comment on it because it would be considered confidential and private between the office and him. But I just don't like somebody besmirching somebody that I know is probably one of the nicest persons on the face of the planet that I've ever met. And like I said, I grew up with him. His mother owned Fisher Stationery in Dartmouth. She was a wonderful person. If you couldn't afford something, she would just give it to you. So, there's two sides to every story. So, I understand Mike's having a hard time of a go at it. And my heart goes out to him that he didn't really take care of making sure he had retirement savings and stuff like that. But just wanted to kind of put that on the record.
Sure.
Just that, Dan. But yeah, go Moose, go.
All right, Stephen, appreciate it, sir.
Thanks.
And that's the case here. Normally, when we do these things, is that there's always a second side, right? And we do try to bring everything, bring both sides of the story. But in the open hours, that's a little more difficult to do. Anyway, thanks for the call, Stephen. Last word today goes to Al. Al, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
Just wanted to say I'm all in favor of beer and liquor being sold in the corner stores. I've been to Quebec, where it's been that way for years, and it works great. And for the theft, there's an easy solution at the NSLC locations. I know as Nova Scotians, if we shop in Ontario and you go to the beer store, you can't actually touch the product until you pay for it. They send it on a conveyor belt. Do the same thing here.
That's been suggested more than once. And you know what, Al? I think if this continues and we start not to see the enforcement pick up, I believe that's what's going to happen. You're going to look at a picture or a touch screen at the NSLC store, and then it's going to come out by robot.
Yeah, when you're at the store, there's probably 6 or 7 employees in there being helpful. I'm not saying anything negative. And they, can I help with this? And they're stocking shelves. There wouldn't be any stocking shelves. They'd be out back. Be a couple people out of cash. You pay for it up front, and the order comes on the conveyor belt. If you don't pay for it, you get no product. And then it'd be impossible to steal it.
Yep. No, I agree. And it's you're not the first person. And I'm originally from Ontario, so I can say that's the way the beer store there's worked there since I was a kid. So there are examples of that in this country.
Yeah, and I've been there. I've kind of complained about it years ago when I was there, but then from the theft point of view, it makes total sense.
It does. Al, appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
902-405-6000 is the number. Write that down. Put it in your phone. Get ready because we'll do this again tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. The open hour will happen at 11 o'clock. We've got lots of things planned for you on the Thursday edition. Nova Scotia Works is hosting a spring job fair. We've talked about employment a lot here on the program. We'll talk to the executive director of Job Junction. Will be in the studio with us today to talk about it. We're going to also try and connect up with David Hensby, who was the lone dissenting voice yesterday on this Twitter business, and we'll get to his thoughts on it. He thinks it's censorship. We'll go down that road, and that will be in the third hour tomorrow. And of course, 11 to 12 tomorrow morning will be the open hour, and I look forward to it. I've said it many times, and I'll continue to say it, my favorite hour of the entire program. Thank you very much. to all of the people that dial the numbers and join the program. I truly appreciate it when you do that. Thank you to all of our guests who took time out of their days to bring us a perspective to the program, and most importantly, should be making the 14-year, $500 million contract that Vladdy Jr. got. That is Vanessa Vandenez, who does an outstanding job on the other side of the glass. And without her, I'm telling you, the place would go sideways. More sideways than it usually is. Have a fantastic day, everybody. I hope the snow's done. I hope we're finished with winter. Hopefully tomorrow we can talk about spring-like temperatures. Until then, take care of yourself. Have a fantastic day. And remember, be kind to one another.